Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk to you about something called coffee can investing. No, I'm not advertising for Saurabh Mukherjee. Yes, but he's the person who made coffee can investing better known in India. But it's an old concept, so I'll talk about that concept. But before that, let me go to what Warren Buffett says. And because it's a quote, I would like to read out from the text exactly as he said. He says, in the end, what counts is buying a good business at a decent price and forgetting it for a long time. The number of longs is Warren Buffett's choice, not mine. So this is true. What he says is you should invest in a company and not worry about it on a day-to-day basis. It does not mean he does not pay attention to it. Of course, he pays attention to it. He knows what's happening. So again, about long-term investing, this is what I say. It is if I've held a company for 40 years, it is not as though I bought it on the day I bought it, I knew I'm going to hold it for 40 years. It is a few years of very active monitoring, looking at the quarterly results, etc., etc. And afterwards developing enough confidence not to bother about looking at the quarterly results. So whether it is Nestle, Coromandel International, or Colgate or Hindalco, these are companies which I have held for really long periods of time. Hindalco 1957 is older in my portfolio, in my family portfolio, than I am, right? It is 1957 bought, which means it is 43 plus 22, 65 years of wealth creation. Yes, there have been very bad periods when the Indira Gandhi government put a ceiling that you cannot sell aluminium above a particular price. So Birlas retaliated by paying no dividends. So yes, we've gone through real bad times, but having said that, 65 years compounding, yes, surely there are times when you feel that the index would have done better. I sold some recently during the boom, and that's very rare for me. But I've held Colgate for such long periods of time. I've held Nestle. I've held many of these shares. Holding it for a long period of time means initially monitoring it, then developing enough confidence to say, okay, this is a metal. I will sell it at a metal peak, and I'll buy it at a bottom. So I may do that also. But largely, coffee can investing is about that. It is about buying a good share and forgetting it for a long period without worrying about the noise that it makes. For example, I'm not sure, I think it is Unilever who said we will not use Facebook for advertising, which is true. They do not use it in the US, but outside the US, most of their money on digital spending, a lot of it, I won't say most, a lot of it goes to Facebook. You cannot really avoid Facebook and Google. Try removing Google and Google apps. You won't be able to use Ola, you won't be able to use Uber, you will not be able to use any of those. If you completely cut yourself off the phone and your delivery boys will not be able to deliver, right? So you really can't cut yourself off some of these things. So even though you may be angry, you may say, oh, Netflix is showing this about India, but you will still go and watch Rocketry when it comes on Netflix, right? So we can be angry. We will say this is what happens. We will say, oh, younger children are not going to Facebook. Does not matter. At this point, it does not matter. Their revenues do not matter. So yes, you should be reading the top line. You should be seeing what happens. But to be able to find, is it going to hit their bottom line? That's very important. People will talk about it. Like for example, I don't invest in ITC because I don't want to invest in a cancer vending company. That's fine. That's my choice. It does not mean the cash flows of ITC will disappear. And if so, ITC has the cash flow, it will get the PE and it will get the price. There is no doubt about that, right? So you have to decide which noise upsets you. You say, oh, nowadays younger people are not smoking. Really? A lot of younger women are smoking, right? So if younger women are smoking, they will come out with some light brand which will be cheaper or perhaps more expensive, which will give them better margins, and cigarette sales will continue to boom, right? So you have to look at it from a long-term impact on the bottom line. Now, how did this originate? This coffee can investing originated somewhere in the US. Let me just check the year. Okay, first of all, what is coffee can portfolio? Coffee can portfolio is buying good shares, keeping it in a coffee can and not having to touch it for very long periods of time. This is exactly the reverse of trading, where here you buy and keep it there and you don't touch it. You put it in a coffee can and forget it for long periods. So you don't have to worry on a day-to-day basis how is the price movement, which means you're not buying for tomorrow, you're buying for 5 years later, 7 years later, whatever. That's the kind of call you've taken. Yes, this business will continue. Let's take a Bharti Airtel. Yes, this business will continue. Yes, Bharti will survive. Yes, Bharti will be an important player. And yes, maybe Bharti valuation is better than Jio as a standalone telecom company. But tomorrow Adani could come, things could change, all that. But whatever happens, an entrenched player is not going to die, and perennially he will get money. So if you are paying 500 rupees a month today for using a Bharti service, tomorrow that will become 600, or then it will become 700. At some point he knows, or Bharti knows, that people will not mind those small changes because inflation is high. So his revenues are guaranteed, Bharti's revenues are guaranteed. Yes, he will make payment for 5G, etc., etc. But understand, basically the business is going to work, and it is going to work well for a long period of time. It's an infrastructure product, right? Like the State Bank of India or an HDFC Bank. Whatever you say, whatever your anger that they are mis-selling, etc., etc., look at the size of the balance sheet. These banks will continue for a long period. So if the economy does well, these banks will continue. So these could be some of your shares in the coffee can. Okay, this coffee can term was coined in 1984 by Robert Kirby. Robert Kirby was a portfolio manager who saw that his client, who had done better than what some other clients had done, had taken all of Kirby's recommendation to buy, and he would put $5,000 in them, and then he would ignore the sell call. He never bothered about the sell call, and that made sense because one share went from $5,000 to $800,000. He does not say which share. And so what can happen is, one share like this can make sure that maybe next 100 mistakes of yours or 50 mistakes of yours don't really matter, because even assuming they went wrong, one such share could do so well. Now this is a way of looking at it which is very different. I wouldn't look at it this way. I would look at saying, oh, if this is so good, let me put more money. Why just $5,000? Let me put more money into it, and if there is something bad, let me sell it off. So we will tend to trade, but there is a case for coffee can portfolio with all of us, where we buy some shares and just leave it there for very long periods of time, right? I have 3M which I have left for a long period of time, MRF, Bosch, Lakshmi Machine Work, or LMW. But LMW is something in which I trade also, so I shouldn't be saying that. Bosch is not something in which I trade. Nestle is not something. Colgate is not something in which I trade, and these have been held for a pretty long period of time. So yes, a part of my portfolio is coffee can, and this also happened because he analyzed the client's portfolio, and that is something which we used to do very often when I was a broker. We would pick up portfolios and call that person and say, why have you been holding Siemens for such a long period of time? What did you do? In many cases, people did not have an answer. It was more of inertia and laziness of saying, oh, physical form, then I have to sell and sign for the TD, transfer deed. So therefore, we didn't sell. This is the kind of feedback. We did not get people very intelligently saying, oh, now we saw the quarterly result, it was good, therefore we held on. No, but many of these MNCs, whether it was Siemens or Cummins or anything, we all held just because we said, oh, it's a good company anyway, let's hold on, not based on quarterly results. So yes, it worked. A part of my portfolio is a coffee can portfolio, and it did work. It definitely does one thing. It forces you to take a longer term look, like Supreme Industries. I've held for 1988. I did research in that for somebody else. He paid me fees also for doing it, but the greatest fees was I bought shares of Supreme, and I'm still holding, right? So the kind of return that it has given in terms of dividend, etc., is just superb. Then one more person who is a complete persona non grata in our country today, at least. Okay, let's say he's dead, but his brother had told me how to look at a share, and I think I really owe it to him about how not to get biased about any particular PSU or anything. I was just recently filing my return, and I realized a lot of my dividend comes from PSU shares today, whether it is Coal India, Indian Oil, or I mean even companies like say Castrol, which don't look very attractive in the market. These are fantastic dividend pay masters. So in your coffee can, these kind of things will work. It will force you to create some rules. The PE should be so much, sorry, the PE should be less than this. The ROCE, it should have a return on capital which is good. It should have return on net worth which is good. It should be a business which you think can sustain over the next 10 years. Make whatever rules you have, buy those shares and keep it. Don't worry about day-to-day noise. Don't worry about what Unilever says about Facebook. See what is the impact on the quarterly results of Facebook or Google. These are the guys who are getting all the ads today, right? So look at the impact on their quarterly. If when Unilever says it won't use Facebook, go and have a look at Facebook's result. Has its revenue fallen, right? For example, when Patanjali came with their toothpaste, people said, oh my god, Colgate is finished. It does not happen that way. Patanjali will come, sell 1 million tubes, create an impact, but people will then say, oh, this was good, now I'm going back to Colgate. Or Colgate came out with a product which could rival Patanjali. Then there was Meswak. So a lot of people came, but the market share of Colgate did not really change. Or if it goes from 65 to 64, then it comes back to 65.25. You see that happening. So see the impact, but don't act on a regular basis. Don't say every month I will review my portfolio and things like that. Doesn't matter, right? So build good shares, build a good you can do it this way by saying that I will buy maybe 50 shares or 60 shares and I will just continue to hold. To me it doesn't matter. Now this is very different from another video where I'll say you need to have very good focus and should not have more than 20 scripts, right? So focused investing works for say a Motilal Oswal. Coffee can investing may work for you. It has worked for partially for my portfolio. So it's very difficult to say which strategy to take. Check out everything and then decide for yourself. Thank you.